Hey folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from for this new episode of the Rise Up Radio. And today we have Kelley Steven-Waiss with us. Kelley, it's great to have you with us today.
So great to be here, Ashish.
So, a quick introduction about Kelley, and I'm sure she's going to talk more about herself, but a few lines about her, folks. So, she's the Chief Transformation Officer at ServiceNow, and she's been working at the intersection of people and technology, which is one of the core topics that we discuss at the Rise Up Radio. And I'm really, really excited to hearing her thoughts. Well, prior to this, she also founded Hitch, which was a cloud-based SaaS talent mobility platform, and she's also co-authored a book, which is provided a lot of insights on future of work and AI. And the book is the Inside Gig. She co-authored it with Dr. Edie Goldberg, and Edie has been on our show, so it's great to have you, Kelley, and that basically completes
Wow.
the entire package for us for sure.
Thank you, Ashish. And I'll put a plug in for the second book I did last year, which is really on my journey as a female founder for all those aspiring female entrepreneurs. You'll have to check out that book, which
Awesome.
Forbes published last at International Women's Day last year.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, Kelly. I'm sure our audience is going to definitely love that. So, what's the name of the book that you're talking about?
It's called Valley Girls: Lessons of Female Founders in the Silicon Valley and Beyond. I
Okay,
interviewed 30 female founders across different industries, age
nice,
groups, and cultural backgrounds.
nice, nice. Cool. So, Kelly, before we dig deeper into the topic today, would you like to tell our audience a little bit about your journey, your background? How you did you start your career and till today?
Yes, well, when I got out of college, I got out of college with a journalism degree. And apparently, according to the news, that was one of the most regrettable majors in the country. Although I would argue the skills of being able to communicate effectively, to influence, persuade, motivate, these are all great skills to have.
Hmm.
And it served me well. And obviously, I wrote a couple books, so the writing skills aren't bad. Spent about 10 years in the retail industry, kind of on the HR side, HR development side, talent and leadership development, and then moved into consulting, which is where I got the itch for technology. And I started working in with companies like Cisco, for example, consulting to them, and then kind of went on a journey of working for several tech companies: Wind River, Siebel Systems, Extreme Networks, PMC Sierra, Integrated Device Technology. So sort of semiconductor and software and networking. And that was where I really kind of, as a CHRO for 13 years, started to see like we would let go of people and hire back the same skills. And, 2 months later, as a
Yep.
contractor, thought there had to be a better way.
Yep.
And so developed my own software to kind of solve for that problem. So I guess because I'm in the Silicon Valley, I'm a little crazy, and I just thought, why not? If I can't get a vendor to build it, I'm going to build it myself.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thanks for taking us through that, Kelly. So I'm gonna jump right into the topic today. So, folks, today we are gonna be discussing future of work, how the workplace is changing, and what does it mean for talent and technology alike, right, Kelly? So the workplace is changing very, very rapidly. I think you and Edie have given us a very deep insight into what a future-ready workplace could look like. Right now, we have AI coming in, and you're gonna have AI agents working alongside humans in the workplace, and the dynamics of the workplace is changing rapidly. Even before we can fathom what exactly it's going to be, it's changing. What does talent mean in this entire new paradigm, right? How would you look at talent
Yeah.
as a meta aspect in the
Yeah,
workplace?
well, there's two sides to that. So I'll give you back to the work that Edie and I did
Hmm,
together, is that I think the talent is really beyond people, right? So
hmm,
we're going to be managing both digital agents and the human workforce together.
hmm,
So the talent supply chains that we need to manage are not going to be all human.
Hmm.
And I think that that presents new challenges, not only at the operating model level of these companies, meaning how you structure yourselves, how you build the capabilities for the organization, the governance around that, and ways of working. But
Hmm.
it also gets at how do we make people feel valued at a time when AI is taking away a
Right.
certain number of jobs. So Dr. Fei-Fei Li at Stanford's Institute of Human-Centered AI, one of the things Fei-Fei Li talks about is this word called agency.
Mhm.
And how do we protect the agency of people while this AI revolution is going on? And I think I'm an optimist, but I believe we are at the precipice of a human renaissance. I think that, if we're willing to accept AI as
Yeah.
a way to
Yeah.
extend ourselves, we will be able to unleash a lot of human potential in the
Yeah.
workplace.
So, Kelly, if I were to put you on the spot, right, and say, let's open your crystal ball and say what's going to happen in the next 5 years, how would the workplace evolve, right? There are some studies, like, for example, McKinsey said that, by 2030, 30% of the tasks that humans are doing right now would be done by AI agents, right? What is your take? How would the future workplace look like?
So I think that we're going to start leveraging human beings as for judgment,
Hmm.
for strategy, and for critical points of execution. That at the task level, much of the administrative work, even the process optimization elements, will be done by agents. Now, the good news is, as a former CHRO, I can fire a digital agent really fast when we look at the efficacy of these agents and say, oh, we don't
Yep.
need them anymore. Unlike when you have human beings, and if you operate a global multinational company, you don't want to let go of human workers, right? It's
Right.
not a fun process. So I think this is going to really force in the operating model, how we operate as a company, how we define things like productivity and efficiency, and where we decide humans have the best and most impact.
Hmm.
And so I really think these kinds of tasks that require judgment and strategy are going to be shifted more to the humans in the loop than
Yeah.
the digital agents sort of managing tasks and execution.
Right. And that's a very important point, Kelly, what you mentioned, right? Because when you talk of judgment and taking decisions, a lot of these roles have been left to managers, right? For example, managers and middle managers. But over time, as AI agents are coming in, the role of
Oh,
managers are becoming very different,
yeah,
right?
like dinosaurs. I
Exactly.
really think that, I know this is a disruptive thought, but I have been saying that the management layer in companies was going to go away. Look up many of the interviews and articles going back 7, 10 years. I said that management would go away because
Yeah.
when we get at the task level,
Right.
managers' value was
Yep.
making key decisions and judgments,
Hmm.
not necessarily at task level, but
Correct.
maybe critical junctures. Do we go this direction or we go that direction?
Correct.
Now, digital agents can make tier 0 and tier 1 decisions without even being prescribed because
That's
they're going to
correct.
be learning.
Correct.
But for, management, do we really need management of tasks anymore? Now we need people who manage humans in terms of careers
Yeah.
and get potential.
Hmm.
So I think that the role of the typical manager, which holds up so much of the organization
Correct.
actually
Correct.
today,
Correct.
we're not going to have that layer. We're going to
And
need
it's gonna evolve to a more human-centric approach, like you said. So maybe people skills and soft skills are gonna be more and more important for managers than they are today,
100%.
right? At least they're gonna come to center stage, even though they're important today. Nobody's paying attention to them, but now more and more, that is going to be the key for people managers, no?
That's right. And I do think if we look at academia, or the skills of, I have 4 children, one off payroll, which always gets lots of laughs. And the goal, get them off payroll, right? But one of the concerns I have about this younger generation is the practice on the softer, I'll say, power skills
Yeah.
around communication,
Right.
resolving conflicts, problem solving between human beings.
Right.
Like these require a lot of practice and muscle building around those power skills of
Right.
communication, conflict resolution, et
Right.
cetera. So
Right.
are they getting enough practice?
Right.
That's the question, because everything else can be digital agents.
Yeah. And so would that mean that, Kelly, that traditionally organizations have been very credential focused organizations, right? Okay. What is this human being's education? What is the human being's past experience? But more and more, it's going to move to what can they do for us? What can they do today, right? What is the skill that they possess in terms of,
Right.
how can they, support the organization? So in a way, we are
But
moving
I think
away
it's
from credential first approach to a skill first approach, isn't it?
100%. I think that I think this credentialing around going to college and having some degree,
Yeah.
which used to be like, okay, you reserve the right to go into a trade at a certain level,
Uh,
is now going to be based on micro learning opportunities. The ability, so this is really the power skill of the future, is to learn, unlearn, and relearn
yeah.
in multiple iterations. The ability to reimagine oneself, because if we look at the industrial revolutions of over the last, I think we're entering 5.0 with the emergence of
Yeah.
generative AI and agentic, is that these evolutions are happening so much faster than they were
Correct.
before, that the
Correct.
ability to learn a skill over a 4-year period and then come back and apply it doesn't work anymore, it breaks.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I think this 4-year degree is going away. I think resumes go away because
Yeah.
you're learning the flow of work
Correct.
and all the
Correct.
time.
Correct. And that probably also, and this is something that I have started to realize, and I keep talking to people about, is that if you see the historical tech revolutions, they have impacted the business models first, right? So cloud, internet, all of that impacted
That's
how,
absolutely right.
what business are we doing, right? But generative AI and agentic AI is actually impacting the organization and the way we work, right? And similarly, the transformation has to start first at the workplace level before it even starts at the business model level, isn't it?
Yes, and before I think even academia realizes
There you
that
go.
they have to prepare the workers of the
Yep.
future for what they're
Yep.
going to come up against, which is less about credentials and specific, because again, that amount of things that you learned will totally change by the time you get
Correct.
out of school.
Right.
So actually,
Absolutely.
what are the things that we need to prepare students to be ready to be in this workforce? And
Yeah.
again, adaptability, that's what was soft skills, now power skills. So we have got to kind of go back to where this workforce learns how to work. And I think it starts there. So, and again, like I said, the good news is for my children, they're not going to pay for all that college that I had to pay for. I think that goes away.
Yeah, cool. So, Kelly, let's talk about the talent development practices in organizations, right? So, you have learning and development. I think that's changing rapidly, right? I think the way we have been measuring performance and productivity, that has to rapidly change. I think the traditional models are not going to work anymore for the new age,
Right.
workforce as well as the workplace. The way we set goals, the way we measure goals and track goals, I think it's going to change rapidly. The way we move people around in organizations and assign them to jobs and tasks, I think it has to change rapidly, right? So in a way, if I
Yes.
were to say that, whatever traditional talent development practices that we have developed over decades and decades are not going to be relevant in the next 5 years. It has to be more agile. It has to be more real time. It has to be more human centric and decision making level, and removing the grunt work of data entry, logging in to the AI agents that are going to be working with us. What would that
Yeah.
world look
I
like
think
from a
it's
tech layer point of view?
yeah. Well, first of all, we now have the ability to scale massive hyper-personalization.
Correct.
And so we also have voice technology. We've had
Yeah.
it for a while, but now we're applying it to the initiation of tasks or closing a full loop on an outcome.
Yeah.
And so I think that given we have this ability to scale personalization, the way that people learn, the way they go about getting work or deployed to work, the way they develop in their careers to next opportunities, the workplace will become completely Uberized,
Yeah.
right? So people will be on, choose their own adventure. And the payback is what you contribute back to the company. So
Yeah.
maintaining your relevance in terms of your skills to be able to have that impact. But also the fact that from a software standpoint, since I live in that every day at ServiceNow, the way that companies are structuring themselves, therefore the way we offer enabling technology and
Yeah.
sell that technology to them, is that we can no longer have so many centers of excellence in human resources alone, buying decisions all separately. We have to take a step back and say, how are the end users experiencing technology? How are these enabling them? And so I think we're going to see, there's more downward pressure on the HR leaders themselves to offer integrated solutions, not
Yeah.
what is L&D doing versus compensation
Correct.
versus succession.
Correct.
So a
Correct.
lot of these things are going to break.
Yeah. Right. And I would say that, maybe AI is the problem and AI is also the solution. Like you said, now hyper personalization exists because of AI. And I think that's where the, solution lies in a way, a solution that can actually tie up all the disparate solutions out there and help individuals create their own paths and create their own journeys inside the different organizations, right?
Right. And we can be fearful of how this is disrupting us, or we can lean in. I always use this analogy that in a long time ago,
Yeah.
when we walk into an elevator, there was an elevator operator.
Correct.
And so suddenly, all of a sudden, the operator was gone, and we got into a box that took us up into a building with a bunch of buttons. Now we get into an elevator with no buttons, no
Just our thoughts.
screens, and
Just our
we
thoughts.
enter a kiosk and we just trust that it'll take us 75 floors up and get us where we're going. So
Correct.
as human beings, we are adaptable to change, and sometimes
Yeah.
we don't even notice the change.
Right.
Um, but that period of time, again, those changes that used to happen kind of slowly and not noticeable are
Yeah.
happening rapidly. So
Rapidly.
as humans, we have to be prepared to upskill and reskill and reimagine ourselves. Again, the muscle for learning, unlearning, and relearning must be the power skill of the future.
Absolutely. Totally with you, Kelly. So, now with AI coming in, definitely there are concerns and questions. I think a lot of companies have tried AI and some have ditched AI as well. For example, we have the case of Klarna, right? They basically announced that they're replacing their entire service team with agents, and then they fired the agentic layer and they're bringing back the humans. So, how would these concerns get handled? Obviously, technology is going to get better and better. But right now, when the adoption is happening, how do you balance the human in the loop? How do you make sure that, there are guardrails and there are basically enough safety procedures in place so that things still happen the way they should be happening?
I think that the example that you gave is, I think we thought, oh, opportunity to throw out all the humans, right? There is a value. It's determining where is the value of human beings in the loop,
Yeah.
and where do they matter. In the example of a customer service interaction,
Hmm.
if somebody gets frustrated in an interaction with an agent, there should be a human that comes into the loop. We know that not every agent is infallible
Hmm.
to how it hears, how it infers, how it understands context. And in that case, you better be able to have a human being take over.
Correct.
But it's knowing when that transfer needs to happen, and setting those guardrails. When it comes to human resources, because of course, near and dear to my life and my profession, is I think, we also have to recognize that there's this opportunity to leverage people data across the enterprise, but there's for the hyper personalization and
Yeah.
experience, there's also guardrails that must be in place for people to feel comfortable with that data being leveraged. And so I think even for HR leaders, this is kind of the big question that's happening. I think it's slowing us down in
Yeah.
adoption because we want to make sure that data is safe and secure. I feel fortunate that I do work for a company who considers and not only data volumes, data velocity, and data leverage, but how we do that safely and securely, how we
Right.
have visibility to what's happening with these agents so they can't run rogue, I
Right.
think. So as an HR leader, former HR leader, recovering HR leader, that is how I would look at it.
Very nice. So, Kelley, I'm coming towards the end of our questions. I have one last question for you, right?
Mhm.
What is the one bold move you're going to make for future of talent?
Bold move is I am going to start leaning in heavily to how we use AI agents to think beyond the typical workflows, not a better
Mm-hmm.
mousetrap.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but how do we make work better for people in areas that matter to them, which is their careers, how work is deployed for them, how they find meaning and passion in their professions. And so I started that journey many years ago with Hitch. I'm going to continue with it. So I think that's the bold move. I am certainly leaning in and putting AI to work for myself, my team, and my profession.
So, what's your favorite AI tool, Kelley?
Well, truthfully, I know this sounds funny, but I am playing with ChatGPT all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
I sound like such a Gen Xer, but I keep finding either limitations or
Yeah.
opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
which this whole notion, I'll give you an example. My son was interviewing for a job, and I'm like, okay, let's schedule time as a former CHRO. I'm going to get you ready. We're
Yep.
going to talk about the role modeling the role that you're shooting for. He's like, Mom, I've already done that in ChatGPT. Um, I set all the prompts. It even gave me the questions I should ask in the interview. And I sat back to myself and I said, wow, there is so much I don't know
Right.
yet. So maybe I need a reverse mentorship going on with younger
Well,
people.
absolutely. I think the generation today is much faster and
And
in terms of
adopting it
adopting technology.
faster, adopting
Absolutely.
it way
Right.
faster. So we don't even know how we're going to use this stuff in the
That's
future.
correct.
It's exciting.
That's correct. So yeah, we're so early in the curve, right? I mean, we don't even know how the technology is going to evolve, and then what impact is it going to bring on individuals and the entire workplace. So I think we all are making predictions, but what's going to happen in the future, we have no idea right now.
Who knows, right? But
Right.
there's being afraid of it or being excited about it.
Oh yeah,
I'm an optimist. I'm super excited about what it's going to do for people, actually.
there you
And
go.
I'm
That makes the two of us.
right. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for taking
Yeah.
out the time and chatting with us today. And I'm sure our audience is going to love it for sure.
Yes. Thank you, Ashish.
My pleasure. All right, there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this session with Kelly. And if you need to connect with her, do connect. We're going to share her LinkedIn profile in the description below. So please reach out to her and have a chat. Until I see you next time, you folks be safe. Bye bye.
Bye bye.